I'm in Tennessee.
Hello again. This is Brian Copeland talking. Welcome to another edition of Copeland's Corner. First one that we've done this year. Everybody was under the weather last week, so we said, Trump will still be screwing things up next week. Trump week. If you were joining us for the first time, we are streaming live today, so you can watch us live. You will be a part of the conversation. Leave us a chat. I'm going to be monitoring those, and I will answer your questions or any questions you have for the panel here. Let me introduce who we got this week. We've got Jim Ballily, comic, who is also a television sitcom writer, wrote for the Golden Girls and Two and a Half Men and Arrested Development and on and on and on. We talked about his entire resume before he came on the air here. Brian Mallow, one of our regulars, is back. Former San Francisco comic, now living in Mexico and only coming here to work and taking jobs away from Americans, taking them back to Mexico with him. Good to see you.
I'll probably get deported.
Probably. Is that ice behind you? And Yanni Ababa is here. If you are a regular viewer of this channel or of this podcast, you know Yanni. She sits in for me when I'm not here. In addition to that, she also is a commentator and a very, very funny comic and YouTuber and writer. And what else? Am I missing anything else at all? No, I don't think I am. All right.
Well, devilishly handsome.
Devilishly handsome. I'm sorry, I totally forgot. I'm the one with no glasses. I just realized here among all of us.
Our host, Brian Copeland.
And the host, of course, your host, Brian Copeland.
Not a genuine black man. Okay.
Let's go ahead and let's start with this. Way we'll start with this is I have individual questions for each of you. Questions. I feel like I'm on like the dating game. Questions chosen specifically for you. You'll answer your question by yourself, and then we'll open it up and let everybody else into it. So Brian, you're up first. All right. So I've been reading all of the stuff about the ICE agent who killed Renee Good, and there's more and more and more that's coming out. And one of the things that surprised me, some of the things that didn't surprise me, were the fact that there's all of this white supremacist bullshit that he has posted all over various social media, that he has military experience and law enforcement experience and was a weekend warrior and all of this kind of stuff. But what did surprise me is that he has a Filipino wife who is an immigrant. Her parents live in the Philippines. She immigrated, apparently is here legally, and is married to him. So when you look at his record, and I did not go into it extensively here, when you look at his record and Oh, I hear recording in progress from later. Okay, I guess we're starting right now. When you look at his record and you see what his background is, and the fact that he's married to a woman who's from the Philippines, what do you think was his motivation in order to join ICE? Somebody like this, and quite frankly, the way that ICE is now, what's the motivation of anybody to join? Just in your thought, and this is pure speculation. It's all, whatever your thought happens to be.
That's just the thing. I don't know anything about this guy really and his state of mind. I have been seeing some people say, how can he be racist because he's married to a Filipino woman? And it's like, that's not a very strong, I have black friends and I'm racist. So,
That's
it doesn't rule it out.
You have no black friends.
Maybe let's take two. You could say, you could be the kind of person that says, hey, some of my best friends are black. That doesn't mean you can't be racist. So, I can't say anything specific about his motivations, but I've always thought, in all forms of law enforcement, there are probably some people who go in for very noble purposes.
Of course.
But clearly some don't. And maybe they have, power trips or who knows. And now this guy isn't one of the recent ICE hires, because if he were one of these newer people that got almost no training,
47 days. It's supposed to be 90.
Is that right? And the qualifications are almost nothing. I think it said you have to be eligible to be able to carry a gun. It doesn't mean you have any experience. and everything else. You saw like the physical training. They had to drop some of the requirements for sit-ups and stuff because they weren't passing. Because I mean, these ICE agents are more pot-bellied than any other police force in the world, probably.
You
I
haven't
don't
been
know,
in New
but
York in the 70s.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
but
I once,
you know,
I,
is
I once
that
got, no, sorry, go on.
no? Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I'm just saying that, yeah, they aren't, I agree. They're not in shape. They're not in shape. Like you
Yeah,
would want them to be in. Yeah.
yeah. So I did a little bit of looking because, you know, there are these rumors, at least, that he had a Grinder account or that, so he previously, though, he's got a long career. He was military. He spent 7 or 8 years at Border Patrol, and then he's been ICE for like a decade. So, and that he's a firearm instructor, which really makes all this look even worse.
Wow, I
because
did not know
absolutely
that.
knows. Oh
Really?
yeah,
The last thing you're supposed to do is have a phone in your hand and a gun in the other. I mean, that's wow.
and he should know that. He's not one of the untrained guys. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, I haven't in my little bit of looking, I couldn't confirm some things except the Grinder account. No, I have a date with him. No,
What are you gonna wear?
You're also not mentioning, that he, he had that accident 6 months earlier where he got dragged
Yeah.
by a car by sticking his hand in. So, I mean, that would PTSD anybody, you
Then
know?
get him off of active duty.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
you're suffering from PTSD, then get him off of active
you're a
duty.
Yeah, that-
driver now or whatever, I mean,
no sympathy for that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
And-
well, yeah, go on.
Oh, and I was going to say what I learned about that today is like he freaked the guy out. He broke a window and he was reaching in to unlock the door and is why he was dragged. Not that any of the behavior was, I don't know enough about the details, but that's how he got himself dragged a distance.
Wow.
I got any your thoughts?
Well, I mean, look at all the Black and Latin ICE agents and Border Patrol.
Yeah,
And look at how they are just as, and in some cases, even more savage than the white ICE agents in order to prove some sort of point. So it doesn't make a difference if he's married to a Filipino woman. There's lots of racist people married to people of other colors who decide that that one person is the exception to the norm of how much they hate that group of people.
And I don't want to mention any names, JD Vance, but other than that, I can't think of any.
Right? JD Vance, I mean, well, you know my theory on that. They're each other's beards. Can't prove it, allegedly, just, that's another story.
I don't know.
Happy to spread it though.
She doesn't look like a couch, but go on.
I mean, oh no, she's not a couch. I'm sure she's got a lovely female friend somewhere. And he's got Peter. So anyway, but that's just I have no proof. Anyway, but we've seen at the forefront of a lot of these videos, it's either like Proud Boy J6er looking motherfuckers or Black people who I don't know what they're doing. If they're just trying to catch a check, if they think that this proximity to white supremacy is going to keep them safe or what, but
or it's power trip. I mean, for a lot of these people, I mean, we have all met cops who are great cops who really did sign up to protect and serve. And I will say, I have friends who are cops. I have a lot of friends who are
my
cops.
grandfather was a cop. My uncle was a cop.
But we've also met or been stopped or harassed, those of us of color, by cops who are cops solely because of the fact that they have 2-inch penises, and this way you're going to respect them.
I feel like
you have to do it this
for that length.
For the 2
Too much
inches.
credit.
So that's
2 inches. That's a lot for them, Brian. A lot. Okay,
Brian, do you have a thought on that question though? Do you about his motivation for?
Well, yeah, I think it's power trip, to be completely honest with you. I mean, and the fact that he called her, I'll say it, he called her a fucking bitch after he killed her, and it's on audio. Hey, by the way, did you see that interview with Christy Nome, where they showed her the video and said, was that the officer? Because you hear him say it, and she smirked like she thought it was funny. that this guy just killed this unarmed woman. But I
I
think that a lot of
yeah.
these people, I think that a couple of things, a lot of these people, I do think that it's power trip. And it gives them the authority that they have nowhere else in life, working at the donut shop or whatever the hell it is they're doing, to make anybody anywhere do what it is that they say, to know that the president has their back no matter what they do. The fact that they are falling all over themselves to defend this son of a bitch for what it is he did. The latest being, I saw right before we started live streaming, is that they're trying to find a way to charge Renee Good's wife. With what? I don't know. Insubordination, or I don't know what they're trying, but they're trying to find a way to charge her. And ICE believes that was a good shoot. So explain to me how the hell that was a good shoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll probably get her because she said "Drive, baby, drive," and
Which she did.
yeah, and they will say she was ordering, Renee to run over this guy. It's
You know
it's the
what?
worst thing I've ever seen ever. If I can just chime in here, it's the
Yeah.
worst thing I've ever seen ever, and it's so clear, and it seems to me that it's almost in a weird way, that as much as getting, you know, they're, who they consider illegal people out of the country, and it is a power trip, but to put on a vest and have a gun and mask, and like to take down a gardener, or someone who's working housekeeping at Motel 6 or something like that, that is, what I call an unfair fight,
Mm-hmm.
and and I do think that I think they love this storyline. I think they love that people are beginning to protest, because protest all of a sudden now, no one's talking about the Epstein files right now.
That's
They're all
right.
talking about the protests. And I think that it's like, I think there are a lot of J6ers. I think one of the reasons they keep their faces covered is because there's a lot of J6ers in that
Mm-hmm.
group. And hey guys, how would you like it if we got, all those people who put you in prison and told you were bad and ruined your life, like every woman who's ever fired you, or brought you up on a sexual harassment or a sexual assault thing, like all those people who you hate, they're going to be the liberals. They're going to be the ones out there protesting. Conservative people aren't protesting. Independents, they might be some protesters, but mostly, how do you like to go out and push those people around and show him? And this guy
And
just was
kick the
kick
doors
their
of their homes
doors,
in
crash, and get out of
without a
the
warrant.
way. They
Without a
get
warrant.
guys who couldn't become cops are now cops, and even better than
Sure.
cops, because cops have to follow a certain, they have to have body cam
It's
on.
called the law, is
Yeah,
the thing I think you're looking
it's
for.
called the law, and you will never convince anybody who supports ICE that this guy did anything wrong, because they're not getting the same videos, that we're watching.
No, they're not.
And if they do sleep, one does go through, they have, immediately. It's just not going into their algorithms. They know.
I saw a video right before we came on. It was a story that I think CNN did, or the New York Times, it might have been, that is done in terms of what they're doing now to try to ramp up ICE enrollment, because Christy Nome wants another, I forget, 100,000 or
They have
however many
$75
more
billion
ICE.
budget. They have a
No,
75, yeah.
it's $100 million they're going to spend, but it's not just $100 million. It's the places they're going to spend it. Gun shows.
Yep.
They're targeting places where there are people who are like, military nuts who can't possibly be in the military, where
Yep.
you're going to find militia people, places where
Yeah.
those who are white nationalists gather. This is where they're going to spend the money. These are the people they're going to try to recruit.
Yeah.
And see,
And
I've got my big conspiracy theory is that they're doing everything they can because they want to riot. Because if they get a big enough riot, then Trump can invoke the
martial law.
Insurrection Act,
Yep.
and it's martial law.
Yep.
That's
I saw
exactly.
something kind of amusing, which is that this, whatever the $50,000 signing bonus or whatever, that you don't get that 50,000 immediately. You don't get it until 5 years. And the odds of most of these people being enlisted for 5 years is pretty slim.
Well, to be fair, Warner Brothers has the same deal.
I
Well,
mean, but
go ahead.
they're not hiring the best of the best to go after what they call the worst of the worst, right? So,
Yeah.
and what they decided are the worst of the worst are people who look like you, Brian, or like me, and our mere existence is what makes us the worst of the worst. The fact is that being here undocumented is not a crime. It's a civil offense, right?
Misdemeanor.
So they've made it seem like they're like any person of color who exists in America is a criminal for their mere existence, and they are justified in going after them. And they're even using black and brown and Asian people to go after them. They've convinced those people to go after their own communities, right? So even though in Minnesota, it was a white woman who was in charge of all that fraud with the child care, right? And there were some Somalis who were a part of it, yes. They've decided Somalis are the problem, and they're going after an entire community because when a white person commits a crime, it's that individual committing a crime. But when a person of color commits a crime, then it's all of them.
Well, that's
It's
how
all
racism's always been. I mean,
and
that's
so
that's how it's
they're
always been.
like banking on that right now because they want a whites only country. They want this is Stephen Miller's fever dream. He wants
Yeah.
anyone who isn't white out. He wants people to only eat white bread with white pasta and drink white milk and eat white cheese, and everyone else can go.
And one sad
That's where they
Filipino woman by herself.
Yeah.
Have you
yeah, but
seen
she's
the
gonna
videos
stay in
that
the
have come
house and
out?
cook all the white stuff.
Have you seen the video? I'm trying to think who had it. I think Kimmel who had it, who ran it, that they have of Stephen Miller in high school.
Yeah,
Because he's from
I've
Southern
seen that.
California.
He's from Santa Monica. He's from
Is
like
that where
10,
Santa Monica?
10 miles from me. Yeah.
And so he ran for like student body president or something, and they had video of his speech. And he's got full head of hair, and he's got like like James Franco's sideburns.
It's not that
You
long
know,
ago. It's like 25 years ago. For
you're
somebody my age, it's just like,
you're aging yourself when you say it's
yeah.
not that long ago. But
I'm
anyway,
71. I have to
but
worry about
he
aging
he
myself.
was bad then, and one of the
Yeah.
things that he complained about was he goes, here's something that'll change if I'm president is how many of you are sick of hearing them say pick up your trash, pick up the trash that you leave in the cafeteria, pick up the trash that you drop. Well, you know what, we have janitors here for that.
Yeah.
It's their job. We have janitors here for that.
Yeah.
And
Well, not for long.
yeah.
Yeah,
God.
no,
Yeah.
not in.
Well,
I don't know which Latin person um bullied Stephen Miller in high school, but seeing some of the video of him from high school, I get it, right? Even
Yeah.
though bullying is never good, but like this is all your fault and fuck you. So
Yeah.
that's where I am at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the quote when you were talking about how they were deciding who were the bad people, this is a word for word quote. You can look it up that Christy Nome said at a press conference. I believe it was a press conference where ICE was accused of racism. And she said that ICE was not racist. This is the quote. And I said this actually on stage, and people were laughing. Thought I was kidding. I'm not kidding. She said, "We treat everyone the same, whether they're black, brown, or normal."
Black, brown.
Nice. It almost reminds me of the releasing of Jonathan Ross his camera video. They released it thinking that it would redeem him, and it's like, wow, are you wrong about that? And the same thing, like she's saying she's just speaking normally and thinking it's fine.
For the record, I am a member of Normal Power, a group that trying to advocate for a more normal society. No, she's nuts. She's crazy.
Oh, she's crazy.
She's
You
crazy.
see her in
I
the
mean,
cowboy hat over the
yeah,
weekend?
the cowboy hat. But I have to think that, it's working for that group. It's working for them. It's like, they did say, at least my algorithm is telling me they're going, like Sean Hannity, that guy, he is like ICE is the victim here, and it's like, well, wait a minute, you just sent 2,000 more in to, Minnesota's not a big state, there's not a lot of people there. And they certainly don't need this kind of, they have their fight. They have built this fight up that, your paper tiger, the Somalis. Let's get the Somalis out, and then, all of a sudden, this I actually believe this cold-blooded murder, in my opinion,
Yes.
um, uh, feeds into it's like that kind of swing off. It was like they build you up to yeah, a little more awful, a little more awful, and now it's just like it's what Trump put into their head 10 years ago. I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and you'll still vote me, and you're not
Hmm.
going to believe your own lying eyes.
Hmm.
And there's one little grainy little clip of of her coming where if that's the only thing you saw you would see, you would say, well, maybe he did clip her,
Hmm.
or she did clip him,
But even
going
so,
away.
that's still
But there's like 10 other views that say no, that absolutely didn't happen.
okay. But even if that little grainy clip you're talking about is the only one you saw, it's still under the law does not justify lethal force.
Yeah, but
It's still
people don't care about the law, and there will
No.
never be a court case. I
no.
mean, I don't know why immediately, her family isn't suing for, the,
We don't. How do we know that they're not? I'm
I
sure that
guess they will. I
I'm
guess
sure
I
that there are lawyers that are lined up on
yeah.
behalf of her
But
kids.
once again, that all becomes a giant distraction. This one event will become,
Hmm.
another couple of days of not, the Epstein. You're not going to see. They've only released, I read, 0.6
Hmm.
percentage of the files. I mean,
Even
and
though they've been ordered to.
yeah,
Hmm.
no, it's just like, who's going to arrest us?
And
Us?
where's the
You know?
enforcement?
Yeah.
Just going back before we move on to the next topic, going back to something that Yanni was saying about the "I have a black friend," kind of a thing.
Brian.
It made me think. I'm sorry, that was it. Was that Brian that said that?
Brian has a black friend. I am the black
You
friend.
are the black friend. Him, I know I can take him really, but the rest. But no, it brings me back to Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond, the segregationist Republican who was in the Senate till he died over the age of 100. He was a Democrat first, back when the Democrats were the party of segregation. He ran for president in 1948 as a third party candidate based upon segregation. That was his platform. And then you find out after he died that he had a daughter. Like I said, he was 100 when he died. He had a daughter who was like 70, who was African American, who was the daughter of him and the family's maid. So this guy who's been running around talking about, who's been beating the drum for 60 years, or however many years, for segregation and why black people were not equal, had a black daughter himself. So
But he was
actually,
consistent. He segregated her from the public eye
yeah.
after,
I mean, there's no difference between that and today's GOP that screams and yells about trans people and gay people, and then they break Grinder every time they have a convention.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that hysterical?
Yeah,
they're the
it's
largest consumers of trans porn.
All right.
That's so hard to wrap your mind around.
I know. Well,
yeah.
we've seen forever. Well, we've seen forever. The like I remember there was a guy who was the mayor of Spokane a number of years back whose whole thing was being anti-gay, and getting rid of gay
Yeah.
rights, and then somebody released an audio tape of him talking to his boyfriend.
Yeah.
They say whatever it is they think that they need to say in order to
And
get
that has always been a huge pet peeve of mine, whether it's like someone who is adamantly anti-gay or anti-drugs, and then they turn out to be a drug user or gay themselves. And it's like, you don't you don't have to be completely out on either of those, but you don't have to be an adamant antagonist.
persecutor.
You could just you could keep your mouth shut. If you don't want to be a leader for decriminalization of drugs or for gay rights, you could at least not get in the way of it. And I mean, sometimes I think facetiously that I almost respect an outright bigot. But like at least they're being honest to who they are. I don't
Yeah.
really respect them more, but you know what I mean?
No, I know what you're
It's like
saying.
these people who are like, wow, why do you have to throw people in prison for decades for marijuana use, and you use marijuana and coke and who knows what else,
If I had a nickel for every time there was a story about a conservative politician caught in a car doing meth with a gay escort, I would have several Chanel bags. That's all I gotta say.
If
Like,
I can say, I was young at the time. I didn't even know he was a conservative.
I didn't know tapping my foot inside of a men's room
I
stall.
thought I was just going to get a Nathan's hot dog. And I did. I
Who's
miss
Nathan?
Nathan.
Okay.
Um,
we go after like what we sometimes we attack what the thing in ourselves that we don't like for whatever
yeah.
reason, even
Is
if
that what
it's
it is?
society tells us. So then we
Well,
see
what?
someone that's comfortable in that, what we wish we could be,
Yeah.
and then we attack it instead of dealing with our feelings about ourselves.
I
And it's
suggest
like
that
happening on a huge global scale right now. It's exhausting.
look at Angels in America and look how Roy Cohn
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and he kind of, epitomizes all of it.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Stephen Miller of his day, and gay and you know
And Trump's mentor.
J. Edgar Hoover.
And
J. Edgar Hoover, a trans man,
let's see,
head of the
is
FBI.
that true or is that
Absolutely,
not?
Very
100%,
Is it based on one?
100%,
It's based on one book,
100%
I
true.
thought. I thought that was based on one
I
book.
thought his number two at the agency was like his boo, and
Yeah.
that when they were just together, that he was comfortable wearing women's clothing. So he was a
So he
transvestite,
was he
not
wasn't trans. He was,
gender.
I did not get it well, but he certainly, you know,
See, I don't believe in outing. I think that outing
I
is
don't believe in
completely
outing
wrong,
either, but
except unless it's somebody who is persecuting other gay people who happen to
Mhm.
be gay themselves. In which case, I
Like
think
Jenny
that
Johnson.
well, I'll tell you who, like who, and I can't, whatever. I'm going to say what everyone says, and what has been. I can't even say it's been reported. I can say that I've read it several places, including this past weekend. That's been the speculation about Lindsey Graham for years. They
Oh
said
yeah, Lady G, Lady
what's
G.
Yeah.
um, I wouldn't be surprised if he
Lady
knew
G's
all
having
of
a
the
hard
lyrics
time
to
right now.
Funny Girl now.
I mean, is it possible to say he just hasn't found the right woman? I mean, can you? I mean, well, let me ask you this question: is there anything wrong or weird about being a straight man in your 60s or 70s who's never been married? Is there anything that's odd? Why do we as a
I'm best
society
friends with
even
Bill
look at
Maher,
that?
so no.
Your best
Bill
friends with
has,
Bill Maher, really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I met him. We've been best friends for years.
Well,
Um,
it's been a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I'll be,
No,
I'll
yeah.
be, I'll be happy to defend my friend Bill. I mean, I know him inside out. I know him really, really well. And yeah, he had dinner with Trump. Trump asked him. He didn't ask Trump. Trump asked him. He went back, and he said, hey, he's not the guy who he's pretending to be. At least that was what I got from the 2 hours right in front. Nobody has ever gone after Trump as much as Bill has. Nobody
Hmm.
continues to go after Trump the way he does. You know, Bill believes, and one of the reasons that the Democrats have lost is because they have gotten a little too woke. The same reason he built his entire brand, 30 years ago about political correctness.
Hmm.
I myself, when we have no political correctness at the top, you kind of begin to miss political correctness, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, for me,
And
when someone says that people are too woke, as someone who's a Black woman who's been working as an activist, there's nothing wrong with being woke. Woke has kept
not at
Black
all.
people alive and safe for
I
generations, and
agree.
he doesn't understand what that word means, and he's weaponizing it in a very racist way.
I will actually, discuss that with him, and but I'll say this. I think society doesn't know what woke means. Society, woke
Black society knows what woke
yeah,
means.
exactly. It was something that was incorporated by white people. They took your word. It was
Mhm.
like, they took your word, and then they started putting it to this and this and this and this, to a point where if you had anything outside of those, I think people can sit down and talk about all sorts of things,
Hmm.
and we can all have different opinions on, let's say, reparations. You can have an intelligent conversation about reparations without people going crazy. But I think what has happened a little bit out here is, if you even bring up like, hey, you know what, like with the trans thing, and and it's not the trans thing. It's like young kids doing that. I think you can have a conversation about that, and you
Mhm.
shouldn't be, oh my God, everything that you've said before, I'm going to throw out the window because I'll tell you, you know, Bill was given voice to African American entertainers in a way that they had never been given voice before. Like, what, Snoop Dogg, what do you think about the word, in
Mhm.
politically
Dog may
correctness?
not be
Wait,
the best.
let me
Pardon
jump in
me?
here for let me jump in
No,
here for a second because I watch Club Random, by the way, which is his podcast,
yeah,
which I do want to plug for. It is a great podcast. You can
yeah.
listen and you can watch it. I usually watch it every week. And we were talking off the air about John Cryer because you work with him on Two and a Half Men.
Hmm.
Did you see
Yeah, they
the
got
episode
into it.
that
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
they big time got into it. And
Really?
see,
About what?
here's my about several things
yeah.
because they're 180 degrees apart on a lot of politics, but I think it was respectful. But here's the issue that I have with him, and that is he's one of those white men who, when you talk about things that are happening that are racist and are happening now, he acts like and will say, "Well, that was 50 years ago. They don't do that anymore." It's over. We passed the Civil Rights Act. Okay, but talk about today. Well, this shit's still going on today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Absolutely.
something I have, and that's my only problem that I have. I don't have a
Okay,
problem with him.
but
Yeah,
is that the only view that Bill? You see, Bill's entire career for me has been built around I want to get the conversation going, you know, where what he thinks is that's just the starting point. He doesn't try to convince people. He has all sorts of people on the show. He has all sorts, he makes news. Real news.
He had Charlie Kirk
It,
on.
like people don't know people, who never saw Charlie Kirk,
Hmm.
got to see Charlie Kirk, and they got into it, and you have to watch the whole thing. I mean, it's like David Susskind, or everyone has their, someone has to start the conversation, and someone has to be able to take the enemy and sit down and talk. That's diplomacy,
All right, let me ask you this. All
almost.
right, and what you're saying that does make rational sense.
That's what his show is.
However, here's my however, and again, I say I watch it all the time.
Yeah.
I think that I don't watch the HBO show, but I do watch Club Random. I think Club Random is great. And that is this. Okay, yeah, he does give a lot of people a voice. For example, let's talk about Charlie Kirk. He gave Charlie Kirk an hour and a half, it's a podcast, however long it went. But do you believe, and I'll open this to all three of you, starting with Jim, do you believe that there are some people who should not have a forum?
Absolutely. Nick Fuentes. And Bill
There
won't
you
have
go.
him on the
There you
show.
go. There you
Bill won't
go.
have Nick Fuentes on the show
Okay, then why have Charlie Kirk on the show and Charlie Kirk has said shit that was at least as bad as some of the stuff that Nick Fuentes said?
because he wanted. I think that Charlie Kirk at that time, um, he could not be ignored. He was such a presence, and it would be like just he was too big of a legitimate voice in the Republican Party, and he was the one who was getting young men, especially, and he was going to the college campuses, and he was a good debater, but he wasn't a great debater.
Hmm.
I can't say, like, who he should and who he shouldn't have on, but I'm glad to have anybody. I'm glad just not getting Charlie Kirk, not being pushed up against. Bill is a much better debater than the 18, 19-year-old kids Charlie Kirk was debating in those colleges all
That's
the
true.
time. So I would rather
That is
have
true.
Bill debate Charlie Kirk than,
He went
but
from
he also
Yeah,
college
has Sam
campus.
Harris on. He also has, he had Cliff
yeah.
Hutchins on. You're not going to get
That is
Sam
true.
Harris on the Tonight Show, and the Daily Show, and Colbert. I love the guys, but I know exactly what they're going to say, before they say it. I know they are, and I agree with, just about everything they say,
Hmm.
but um, I want to find out what are they thinking. what are they really thinking over there? And there's nothing better than a 1 hour interview where you can sit down and you hear David Mamet on, And after seeing, the 2 hour thing of David Mamet, it's like, hey, I'm not that crazy about David Mamet.
You know what? I didn't watch that, and I like Mamet's work.
I love his work,
I
but I
like a lot
mean,
of his work, but a lot of that, kind of stuff, I
like
sort of
I
stayed
want to figure
away.
out what happened to the Dilbert guy.
Well,
When did he,
here's
when
what
did
I
he fucking
understand.
become
He
a
he's
racist one day?
he's from here. I'm in the Bay Area, and he's from and lived about 10 miles from where it is that I am. I met him and interviewed him once years ago, when Dilbert was white hot, and there were Dilbert calendars and everything everywhere. And he got a podcast and just starts popping off with this openly racist crap. And I can't forget what was the final straw, the final thing that got him canceled to where they, Target yanked Dilbert mugs off the shelves. And it's like he was making millions and millions and millions of
He was saying,
dollars.
I
What
think
was it? What did he say?
it was like, um, don't be friends with black people. They're dangerous.
That's right. That's right.
That's
That's what it was.
it
That's what it
was
was.
that.
That's what it was. So I mean, would it have been? I
Yeah,
mean,
he was trying. Yeah, yeah,
would you have
yeah.
wanted? Would you have given a shit what this guy had to say for sitting down for an hour?
I would no, but I mean, he had a platform. He had, a fan base, obviously,
Yeah.
and I would rather have somebody like Bill sitting across the thing from him saying, "Why would you say that?" Da, da, da. I mean, uh, Bill did say to Trump, what are you doing with this thing? Bill did break through, during that dinner. I don't know, why you wouldn't want somebody at least breaking the crack
Mhm.
and saying, you're not very popular. Bill's like, this ICE thing isn't working out. Or, he could bring up a couple of those points. You know,
Mhm. Would you have
um,
gone if you were invited to the Trump White House for dinner? Would you have gone?
Me?
You?
Why would I get
No,
invited?
no,
I'm
no.
nobody.
I'm just asking you hypothetically. I'm just asking if
Um,
hypothetically, if you could have been Bill's plus one, what
um,
would you have gone to the
would
Trump
I
White
have
House?
gone? Probably, yeah.
You
I
go.
would, I think I would say, hey, why are you, if I could feel, I could safely say, but it's a scary thing to stand up to this guy. You
Yeah.
know, it's a scary, it's and publicly. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, he's not a morally. Well, this goes into my question.
Oh well, let's go to your question. All right, your
Yeah,
question
yeah.
is this. Okay, Trump said in a recent interview with the New York Times that he quote doesn't need international law because the question had to do with aren't you violating international law with what you did in Venezuela, which you're talking about doing in Greenland and other things. And his quote was he doesn't need international law, that his power is limited only by his own morality, which I thought I was going to do a spit take. I wanted to put coffee in my mouth so I could spit it out. When I read that. So the question is, how would you then, if that's what the guiding light is, how would you characterize his morality? I
You
don't see
know,
where he's got it.
I, I,
What is
I,
immoral
I
in his
lived in
world?
New York from like 74 to 84, just as he was, and he was a joke then. The Donald was the nickname that, he was trying to get going. It was like, you've got you got to say Trump is a pretty great last name if you want to, be a crook or a thief. And so like everybody who kind of, was like, yeah, this guy he was a joke. He was the rich kid from Queens, Studio 54. He was a joke. And when he's not dangerous, when he has no real power, he's an amusing little sideshow. And clearly, like a lot of people in this country, he has terrible morals, in my opinion. He doesn't, he just doesn't seem to like anybody who isn't rich and white and
Or who can do something
or who
for
can do
him?
something for him. Yeah. And he just shouldn't be president. And I think sadly he represents there's maybe 25% of the people who like are lawless. They don't believe in the rule of law. They don't believe, and some of them I understand why, we live in a country where if you get a parking ticket at the wrong time, you can lose your house, like five
Mm.
things can happen. They take your car, which is it's like the bicycle thief,
Hmm.
they take your car, which is your way of getting to work, and then you lose your job. I
Yeah.
understand why people hate the government, all sorts of people, and I think that there are people who are kind of like, on the lower side of the economic scale, and they're kind of used to dealing with that. And I think what's happened with all of a sudden, the people who thought they were, I come from a nice white middle class family. If I work and, in the factory and, like my dad did, I'll have a house and a car, maybe even a little house up in the Poconos or something like that. We can go fishing. It'll be a nice life. And that has all been kind of stripped from that level too. And so all of a sudden now you have these guys who like their parents had something and they have less than,
And they feel
like,
entitled to the
and
fact that there's a
well,
sense of entitlement.
oh, of course, because I grew up like this. My father had one job. My mom stayed at home. She raised the kids. We had two cars. What happened?
Okay, but there were
We all
lots of
had,
African American people who grew up middle class, believe it or not, like that too. And you know what you just reminded me of? Let me go ahead. And I guess I got something I want to counter that with, or I shouldn't say counter.
no, no,
I
no,
want to
no,
say
no,
add in.
no. I'm not countering, but there's also a history that, I mean, yes, there are certainly an African American middle class. I
Mhm.
go, but, if you just look at the numbers, the actual numbers, still, it was after the Second World War. That's where the middle class, because of the GI Bill of Rights,
Mhm.
and,
And VA loans and
and
everything
VA
else,
loans,
and you
but
know
the African American community was left off that gravy train.
was
They
completely
they
shut
they
out of
were
it.
totally redlined out of
Mhm.
investing in America, in a house because that's how most people build
Yeah,
wealth
well.
is through homes.
Well, I'll tell you on two things. Actually, going back to what you were just talking about in terms of the redlining, um, I actually I wrote an op-ed piece in Prism on this. Somebody I know who was
In prison?
in
I didn't know
Prism.
you were in
Yes,
prison.
Prism is a news website that
Yeah,
covers hard news from the perspectives of underrepresented groups, the incarcerated, homeless, LGBTQ plus community, so forth. A friend of mine who lives in a town not far from me. His wife's father passed away, left their house that he bought in 1964 for 25 grand, owns it free and clear, died, house is worth $800,000 free and clear. And their big dilemma is what to do with it.
Keep
And
it.
so it's what to do with it, whether they should rent it or whether they should sell it or hold on to it or whatever. And so I was curious, could my father have bought a house in that community in 1964 for 25 grand? And yeah, you're absolutely right. I looked it up and the CCNRs had it actually written, it was written, codified that you had to be white in order to live there. That's one of the reasons that the house how wealth is passed on in this country is your parents buy a house, they die, then you and your brothers and sisters fight over the scraps of what's left of the house
yeah,
after they try to leave it
yeah.
behind.
Are you
But that's
familiar?
why.
I,
But
I
there
live in
wasn't.
I live in Hancock Park. Are you familiar with Nat King Cole's history in
Absolutely. What
Hancock
happened?
Park? Yeah,
I knew I used to open for Natalie Cole all the time, and she told me that story
yeah.
about. But for those who don't know, Nat King Cole had a Hancock. What was Hancock Park like? It was
It
considered.
was very, yeah. It was
Is it
like,
still affluent?
yeah. It's
Okay. Okay,
it's
so he's one of the biggest singing stars in the world. Makes some money, gets a house for his family in Hancock Park, and wakes up one day and somebody had put something in the lawn that burned the grass,
yeah.
and so that it spelled out the N word again. And this is the upper class, the creme
Oh,
de
the
la
most
creme.
liberal,
Hmm.
community, in the country, because there was what's it called, a covenant on deed saying you couldn't sell it
Yeah,
to,
race covenants, race
yeah,
covenants.
and it was Nat King Cole. I mean, this would make a movie. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he ended up leaving because then after he wouldn't leave, the IRS found some reason to to make him have to leave.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would do before I just open this back up, something you made me think about earlier when I see you when you were talking about how these people talk or look at, well, my parents had had a house and we
Yeah.
had two cars and all of this kind of stuff, and I said there's a sense of entitlement. I a couple of months back I was inducted into the Bay Area Radio Hall of Fame, and I'm sitting there with my daughter at this banquet with all of these Bay Area radio legends, people who I grew up listening to, not to mention people who were colleagues, people I just was like, oh, and I had this wave of imposter syndrome come over me where I was like, what in the hell am I doing sitting in this company? And I whisper that to my daughter, and my daughter goes, Dad, here's what you got to do. You have to hold yourself with the same confidence as a mediocre white man. You have to hold yourself with the same sense of entitlement that I'm entitled to certain things, and I am entitled to access to certain places. It doesn't matter what my grades were. It doesn't matter what kind of money my family has. I am a white man in America, and so therefore I am entitled to it. And you have to hold yourself to have that belief in your head. And that was kind of what it was you were describing when
Yeah,
you said that
and as a mediocre white man,
you're mediocre.
I really want to say, it's a lot easier than you think. But but yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So much of this is psychology, and so much of this is like, what do I feel entitled to, and what do like I came from a little bit more of a working class background, but my father did get into the junior executives at Johnson and Johnson thing. And this was a big moment. I mean, people really should look at history. And, if you really want to make home ownership, because I do think home ownership is still a great thing to have. I think it's it's the only way you really, can,
Get
build
a
wealth.
fun, but you can't do it now, and that's the whole
I
thing.
know, but that's the point.
It's ridiculous.
They've taken that off the menu.
Let's open this up and give everybody else a chance to talk for a second. I'm just curious, Yanni and Brian, what did your parents do for a living?
Well, my mother owned a sporting goods store in the Haight-Ashbury, and my
Oh,
father worked for the State Bar of California.
Oh, so
And
you're rich and
charge
sedity and everything.
charge of well, I mean, my grandparents made a ton of money in real estate. My father also came from the deposed royal family of Ethiopia, so there's all those things.
Really? I
But
never knew that about you.
yeah, I grew up in a very different world. I went to a private school, but the one thing I want to say is that whole redlining and discrimination in terms of housing is still going on today in several different ways, right? So racism is policy in America. Racism is policy. So it is harder for people of color to get certain things like home loans or small business loans. It's not as easy. And right now, what's going on is that the thriving Black middle class neighborhoods that came up after Jim Crow are being pushed out by developers and gentrification. So San Francisco is a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
When I was growing up in San Francisco, California, what,
Fillmore.
15%, 15% African American, there's less than 2% African American now.
Really?
And the neighborhood I grew up in, the Haight-Ashbury and Alamo Square, those were thriving Black middle class neighborhoods, and the Fillmore. And starting with Herman's policies and putting that freeway through and creating the Fillmore Center and seizing property
Who's Herman? I'm
to
sorry.
today. He was Justin Herman. He was wasn't he a city planner, Brian?
I think
I
so.
believe.
Yeah, and they've had
Yeah,
Justin Herman
and
Plaza. He's got a
Justin
big
Herman
plaza, got
Plaza,
a
and he said
fountain
his
named after him.
biggest regret was forcing middle class Black people out of Fillmore in order to build the Fillmore Center. And they create policy to force Black people out so that it benefits white middle class, and white middle class is not aware of that. And then they turn around and say it's the Black person's fault that you're not thriving,
Yeah.
while they're taking from the Black people, right? And we've seen that through Rosewood, Manhattan Beach. Here in Nashville, Percy Priest Lake used to be a Black neighborhood that they leveled out, pushed them out, and turned into a lake in the 60s. So those things are happening in America. And that's why Black people needs to stay woke, right?
Yeah.
We need to stay woke because this sense of entitlement that people believe they have, society has told them those people are trying to take away from you while they're taking away from them and the Black people. That's the problem.
Right.
That is the problem.
Let's give Brian a shot here. I'm just trying to find out who had access to the American dream. So your experience was different, Annie, because of the fact that your family came from money.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it came from money. Yours was very middle class, Jim. Brian, what was your family?
Very middle class. My dad was an accountant, a CPA. First working for like a furniture company. Later, he had his own firm, but it was, but regular middle class. I wouldn't say upper or lower. And, but, we had a decent house, 2 cars, put the 2 kids through college.
Mom stayed at home?
Mom stayed at home. And so, you could do that.
And see, look now, and I should mention mine is my father sold insurance when he was around, but when he was not around, it was my mother and my grandmother that took care of my sisters and I. My mother worked as a legal secretary for Ohio Edison in Akron, Ohio, before we came out to California. And she worked for the big Bechtel Corporation out here as a legal secretary. We're doing shorthand that I just found out was dead. Nobody does shorthand anymore. And grandma had 2, and that was what my mom did during the day. And at night, she worked as a waitress at a restaurant called Swenson's. That was an East Coast place that was like, Swenson's. Like what we consider that? What we compare that to here? Like I don't know, like a Denny's maybe, kind of a place. But she worked at night,
like Mel's Diner kind of place.
Yeah. Mel's Diner is more like it.
Yeah.
And so she was a waitress. She did that at night. Grandma pressed clothes at a cleaner's for 15 years, and there was a union. I come to find out she belonged to and had to pay dues for a union for pressing clothes in a cleaners. Think about that, how that the world's changed with that.
Oh no!
And she did that during the day, and she did that rather most of the day. Then at night she would clean apartments for the local apartment buildings. When somebody moved out, Grandma would go and clean it up for the next person to come and move in. And they were still never able to afford a house. They were still never able to, and it's worse now than it's ever been. I mean, they say that the millennials and the Gen Zers are getting screwed worse than any generation in American history. They had the real estate collapse, they had COVID, the .com buzz, all of this stuff, and they cannot afford to get into any place in terms of what down payments are and everything else. And you get the fact that there are boomers, and I'll blame, I'm the last year of the baby boom. Boomers who have houses with mortgages that make their payments as much as rent.
Yeah.
My payments as much as rent for a 1-bedroom. If I were coming in now. And so we're hoarding. And then there's people, you mentioned Hannity. Hannity, people don't know this. Hannity, during the real estate crisis, formed a real estate company and bought hundreds and hundreds of single family homes using FHA money, might I add, using federal government money that he owns and rents out and makes a fortune through those that have taken those off the market. So these young people, there are no starter homes. Yeah. There are no starter homes. So it's hard for the only way they're going to get money is when we die, basically, is what it boils down to. That's when they'll get their first houses.
This is like BlackRock and all those other investment companies. They've been buying up single family residences nationwide and making housing more unaffordable.
Well, I actually heard that Trump is of all people. I'm just pointing out that he is trying to stop that. That he's trying to get a bill going saying that's
private equity firms owning single family homes. But aren't you skeptical? Like, why? It's such a strange thing from him. It's like, is he waiting for the bribes to come in from the private equity industry? Or it's like, what's his motivation? And will it even happen?
Because it's the right thing to do.
You're right. He always does.
You're hilarious.
God bless him. He always is just like, he just does the right thing.
Some people actually believe that, apparently. It's so weird.
A lot of people believe that.
Yeah, because Jesus is with him and Jesus is guiding him towards doing the right thing at all times, whether it's covering up PDF files or
Yep.
you know,
And yet
using
ironically,
crypto.
20% of the people he's trying to kick out of the countries are named Jesus.
Mm.
You know? Come on, that's a laugh. Come on, Yanni.
That's
Oh, no, no, no,
hilarious.
no. I'm laughing
Give me a laugh
on
on.
the inside. I'm laughing.
All right, it's time for Yanni's question before we run out of time, and that is this. Okay, so we've got Trump saber rattling with Iran right now. Iran says that they will retaliate if the U.S. does anything militarily. He's threatening to invade and annex Canada, threatening Greenland. Basically, that Greenland, they can either sell Greenland to America or there's a possibility of an invasion. He keeps talking about the Don Roe doctrine and manifest destiny that would allow, that says that America can take any land that America wants to. That's the manifest destiny. He's got this vision, apparently, of the world being split between Russia and China and us. Now, on the flip side of it, you've got the UK, you got France, you got Germany, and others drawing up. This is so freaky. They're drawing up battle plans in terms of what to do in case there is a Pearl Harbor type sneak attack by the U.S. against Greenland. So, this looks like the beginning of World War III, and I hope to God it doesn't happen. But if it is, are we the bad guys now? Are we now the Axis powers? And if we are, we're the ones that stopped the last one. Who the hell's going to stop us?
Exactly. This
Yeah.
reminds me so much of like the language of a little man from Germany in the 1930s as he talked about expanding across Europe. And then his friend in Italy was trying to expand. And then his friends in Japan were trying to expand through Asia. And it's that same thing to me, right? And what's hilarious to me, well, it's not hilarious to me, it's actually tragic, is that he's talking about Iran needs to stop what they're doing with their protesters while ICE is doing what it's doing to our protesters
Right.
in Minnesota. While he's violating our constitutional rights and defying court orders, he's telling Iran what to do. And what Iran is doing is horrible. Like, it's horrible. They've killed over 2,500 protesters. They've imprisoned thousands of people. They're imposing death sentences on people for protesting. Even though, their money is collapsing, inflation is out of control, things are unaffordable.
And
The irony that he doesn't see, he's acting like, oh, here's another distraction that'll distract you all from Epstein. I'm going to go after Iran, even though I'm doing the same thing in the United States of America. It just hasn't gotten as bad as Iran, but he's looking for a way to make it as bad, right? The other irony, talking about Greenland, just because somebody landed there on a boat 500 years ago doesn't mean it's theirs. I'm like, really, homie? Okay.
I couldn't believe it.
I know some Native Americans that would say the same thing about your ancestors. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just ridiculous. I just hope that we don't get to that point. One, because I'm going to Paris in a couple of weeks and I don't want there to be war while I'm in Paris. I'm a very selfish person. And
you don't want to miss it?
No, I just don't want anything to affect my travel.
Yeah.
I'm selfish.
George Clooney's moved his family to Paris. You know that?
Sorry?
George Clooney has moved his family to Paris.
They got citizenship, right? Wasn't that the reason?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. A lot of people, if people can get out, they're getting out.
It's been my dream for years, to live my old lady days in France. So, and that has nothing to do with like current political situations. That has to do with fashion and wine.
It has to do with Josephine Baker. That's what
there's a beautiful town called Bazoul that you would love. Bazoul. My friend, the great Richard Belzer, bought a house there years ago. And it's this giant, cavern. It's like living around the Grand Canyon in the middle of, but all vegetation and beautiful. Like
nice.
Brazil, and you can probably get like a house for about 150, 200, grand there, and it's all made out of that great French rock stuff.
I think somebody else, like Elaine Boozler or somebody.
Elaine Boozler, Taylor
Is she in France?
Negron moved there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Elaine is. I can't. But yeah, France is beautiful.
But I mean, this whole like manifest destiny, this is our right because we are Americans, is ridiculous. The oligarchs behind Mango Mussolini are the ones who want the minerals in Greenland.
Yeah, I think it's probably right.
And Putin has been putting this bee in his bonnet since his first term. There are a bunch of people whispering in his ear, go on and take it. You know you want it. You should
Yeah.
have it. And all he sees is money, 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 money. He thinks he's going to have minerals. And they've given him all these talking points, right? It's for security. We're entitled to it. But like, look what they've done in Venezuela. They pretended like they were making fentanyl. And then the truth comes out when they go and invade. We just want the oil.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's going to manage it himself, and the money's going to go to an offshore account. And I just don't understand why we as a country are like, oh, okay, so this is fine. Like, we're mad about Obama's tan suit.
But are we?
This grift is fine.
But are we?
There should be more.
Yeah, I'll say I don't think, the way he does it is he does an outrageous thing, Venezuela. That was only like what, 3 weeks ago,
Not
and
even.
yeah,
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
two
Yeah, it
weeks
was
ago.
like 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And then, it's like, two steps forward, one step back. He'll do Greenland. What I think is going to happen, Marco has got he's meeting with him now, or tomorrow. And little Marco will come back and say, we've got the rights to the minerals. They've given it to us because, everybody knows that first off, treaties and shit like that, it can change. Nobody wants you know, us to go to war with NATO because that's what they're saying. NATO is saying, no, 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 no. It's so rare when one of the people in NATO decides to attack somebody in NATO. It just doesn't happen.
It's
Well,
never
it's never
happened.
happened.
Has it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's never happened before.
it's never happened, and this will be like, okay, as Marco's saying, just give us something, give us a reason, and they
A
will because.
party or something.
Pardon me? Yeah, yeah. The right. Well, we already have them. We have bases there, But what
Yeah.
everybody else is saying is like, oh yeah, all those bases you have in our countries. NATO's saying, yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to close those down.
Hmm.
Okay, we're just get out, just get out of Europe, get out of Germany, get out of England, get out of everywhere, get out of France. So I mean, NATO does have quite a few cards. It's not we have more money, but they have more players
Let me
on
ask you
our
guys
on the
this: Do
risk
you
table.
guys think there's a war coming? Do you
Um,
think that there's a war coming? The kind of
I, I,
war
I I
where
think I think
18-year-olds
I
are getting
think
sent?
I think we're only gonna no I think we're only gonna go up against people who can't fight back because he's a bully, and that's what bullies do. He's not gonna go up against anybody who can really he's not gonna put boots on the ground because the one thing that Nixon realized is you can't have a draft anymore in this country. No one is willing to die for this country. That's why we haven't had a draft in
Well, that's not true.
50
No one,
years.
no, no one. They're
That's not true.
playing
I
No,
have
no, no,
family.
no, no,
I
no.
have
But
family members.
what I meant is
involuntarily.
voluntarily.
Yeah.
There are people who are willing to put their life on for the country. I take that back. But there are people who are willing. But they're having a hard time getting guys to join ICE. They're having a hard time getting guys to join the army. And my father was a Marine. And I'm sure everybody's parents.
I got a military family.
Yeah,
I got a nephew in the Marine Corps.
yeah.
Nephew just got out of the Army, and I got a niece who's gone up on 20 years in the in the Navy.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was
And
watching the complete aside. I was watching White Christmas the other night. You ever seen White Christmas? The Bing Crosby movie, White
of course I've
Christmas.
seen White Christmas.
Okay, well, there are
What?
people who've not seen White Christmas. So there's just that one number. Gee, I wish I was back in the army.
The
Said,
army is,
said, said no one ever.
yeah, 3 meals a day for which I didn't pay. Uniforms for summer, spring, and fall.
Very good.
Yeah.
The shows we got to see Jolson, Hope, and Benny. But
I
All for
think
free.
that
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to lead to a war. I think he's going to do something so egregious that they're finally just going to remove him from office. That's what I think is going to happen. And I unfortunately think that people here in this country are going to get hurt as a result before it happens. I think it's going to have something to do with ICE, but the military, he demanded that they draw up plans for invading Greenland and they refused. So that just happened a couple of days ago. The generals said, no, we're not doing that. That's against the law.
it's an illegal order.
Yeah, and because the Senate just, they just passed legislation to prevent him from invading Greenland and
But he can veto it.
Yeah.
to prevent him from taking further action in Venezuela. So I think he's starting to realize that, excuse me, I'm getting over that flu. I think he's
All you anti-vaxxers that got sick last week.
got sick with the flu strain that the vaccine didn't cure, right? But I think no matter how much he saber rattles and blusters and all that, I think he realizes how weak he is because his own party is starting to speak out against him and take action against him.
Yeah, that Epstein
I don't
vote
think
was
he's
a
long
big.
for office.
Well, I think he's going to stay in office. I do. I mean, unless he gets sick or something like that. I don't think that. I think that. I'm more worried about the election coming up and
And if
him.
we have one.
Yeah,
And if it's
Yeah.
fair.
and if it's fair, and if he's not going to start confiscating, voting machines and closing
But do
off
you
things
think
here.
that, like, with what he's doing in terms of, like, I mean, he's basically invading Minnesota right now, right?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
the
So
way
basically, he is invading Minnesota
Yeah.
right now.
the militaries have been standing up to his illegal orders and saying, no, we're not doing that. And also the way that this administration, or I'm sorry, regime, has been effectively just disrespecting veterans in such a profound way. And the veterans are like, I have had enough of this. And the veterans are organizing and saying, we're going to do something about this.
Good.
Like, do you really think that he's going to be in office at the end of this year?
I think it's impossible for even after the election for there to be an impeachment, and I just don't think that. That's just what I think.
When you say it's impossible, is it? I have no confidence that this group of people
Yeah,
in Congress
that's
and
what
the
I meant,
Senate.
yeah.
Oh, I think that they will. It's 100% there'll be an impeachment if the Democrats take the House, but
There'll be an impeachment,
removal
but not
is
removal,
something
but
different.
not removal.
You
I
would have
mean,
to have 2/3 of the Senate, and you're not going to get it.
you know,
You can't
and
get 2/3 of the Senate to agree on anything except for that they like dogs, except for Christie Nome.
Pepper Christie.
barring something catastrophic happening, I
Now,
mean,
see, I'm with you. I don't think he's going to be in office at the end of the year, but I think he's sick. I mean, you look at the man. The man is in clear cognitive decline, and he's sick. And he's. I would open a door for him. If I was walking into the store and he was behind the stop, and I would open the door.
Would you open it like this?
I don't know.
When we were talking about all like the blatant lies, I just saw something. The very long-time successful video blogger, Hank and John
Sure.
Green, you might know of, but he made a little short video and he said something really interesting because the blatant lie, this is kind of like, it could be on any of these subjects, but it was about Renee Good and how, especially right after the shooting, the blatant lies from him and from Christie and from JD Vance, ridiculous that we all are like, this is so absurd. Everyone quotes the Orwell line about not believing your own eyes, but he's not talking to us. This harkens back to something we were talking about an hour ago, I guess. But it's like when he says that stuff and we're like, that was absurd. He's not even talking to us. He is talking to his followers who do eat that stuff up.
Yeah, and they're not getting any proof to counter that. That's why, Elon bought Twitter so he can say it's a news feed. It's, that's all it is. And people get, an X now, but their people get their news from X. That's why they're trying so desperately, to change the CBS 60 Minutes. It's like, hey, that's a good brand. What if we just kind of move it over to
they
us?
destroyed. I mean,
Yeah,
that
the
was the
goddamn
gold standard.
nut on CBS. Saying, "Well, we salute you, Marco Rubio." I was like,
I couldn't believe that. Did you see
where the
that?
hell are we? Yeah, he said, "I salute you, Marco."
No, I
Rubio."
mean, I believe you. I didn't see it.
He said it.
I saw
He said
it,
it, and he began crying because it was like, who is this? Who's running this network right now?
Did you imagine Cronkite? Again, we're dating ourselves. But did you imagine Cronkite going?
Richard
Hey,
Nixon,
Johnson?
sleep well tonight.
I did a little math just the other day that I'd been thinking, this kind of comparison can come up a lot, but I finally just did it, which is that because there was another mention that Elon spent $290 million to help Trump get elected. And so he's even wealthier now, but maybe back then, roughly, he's 1,000,000 times wealthier than me, which let that sink in for a second. When we can have great wealth, but he's about 1,000,000 times literally wealthier than me. So his $290 million, it would be like me spending $290 as a political donation. And it's just like, it's really not that much. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, even though it's $290 million to him was like 200.
It's definitely, you know, that's where it's going. I mean, they don't want. I think the ultimate goal is people work better when they're poor, and I
It's
want to
true.
keep people poor, and I want to keep people. I don't want people to own stuff anymore. People, you know, everybody rents. Everybody rents now, and it's even going to come down to cars. It's going to come down to, you know, like, you know, and we'll just have little worker bees, and that's, you know, that's the way the world was. I mean, people kind of forget, like, you know, if you go back 60 years, America, by the standards that most of us are living by today, except for the very, very poor, you know, it was a pretty poor country, you know, and people say, well, everyone could go to the doctor. Yeah, the doctor would, you know, listen to your heart and say, yeah, there's nothing we can do. And that was like the number one thing that doctors would say
Yeah.
in the 40s and 50s and 60s. I'm sorry, you've got cancer. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the reasons health has gone up is because health, you know, if you have insurance,
Well,
I had
also medical research, of course,
medical
and
research and all that stuff.
early
You know,
detection because
it's
of the
you
medical
know,
research.
and then Nixon in the early 70s said, health, should be a for-profit thing. And like anything else, there's a good part of that. All of a sudden, like, hey, we're incentivized to find cures for shit because we can make money doing that, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And the downside is nobody can afford, basic, there are so many answers to the problems that we have now, and all it takes is a little bit of empathy for our fellow man, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of empathy, like everyone's grown up and they're brought up a certain way, and then it's your job as an adult to begin to change the things that, maybe my parents got wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and
And now we're going backwards. I mean, I just knew in my heart of hearts that that there was no way that they were going to allow
no, because
millions of
you can point
people,
to other people and say, yeah.
I knew in my heart of hearts that there was no way they would let millions of people lose their health care. That there was no way that they would allow that to happen, and it's happening.
Of course it's happening. Yeah.
But it's just it makes no sense how you can do that on the one hand, and then out of the other side of your mouth, give billions of dollars to Argentina, offer the people of Greenland, what are they offering them, $10,000 a head or
To
something?
$100,000
Up to
each.
$100,000, you have money for all that. Build ballrooms, $300 million ballrooms, and all of
Well,
this stuff. Well,
Palantir is
people,
paying for the ballroom, and Palantir just recently said like our job is to kill people, so that's great.
it's
Hmm.
just
Yeah,
Tax
and
breaks for yachts.
but the
We
people
all
who
we all need a tax break for our yacht, Brian. I
And
don't
then
know.
teachers can't even get tax breaks for writing off school supplies.
that they pay for it because yeah. It's just it's. If I were king of the world, teaching would be the highest paid profession next
Yeah,
to doctors.
right.
If I were
Yeah.
king of the world. Let me throw this in before we run out of time. This is completely off the topic. Daniel Stern. Daniel Stern, the actor, City Slickers, Home Alone, the voice of the adult Kevin in the Wonder Years, was charged with a misdemeanor count of engaging or agreeing to engage in prostitution in Ventura County last month for soliciting a prostitute
oh
at a Camarillo
Yeah.
hotel. I know
I was going
that's
to
how I
say,
felt. That's how I
I didn't
felt.
know he
I
needed
know
the
I
money.
hadn't
God
seen him in
bless
anything in a while, but
Well,
Well,
okay, but here's the thing.
he just
Okay,
wanted to be in something else. That's all.
okay, but here's the thing. Okay, he wasn't arrested. He was charged, and it is a misdemeanor. He's looking at 1,000. He doesn't even have to show up for a court appearance. He's looking at $1,000 top fine.
Mhm.
And he's looking at which he's not going to get. And if he does, it's like you're talking about. It's $290 for us. Yeah, he's looking at $1,000 top fine,
He
and
was going to spend that much on the prostitute anyway.
yeah, I was going to say, and he's looking at a maximum of 6 months in jail, and he'll wear an ankle monitor and work at the soup kitchen. So basically, it's not a crime that's treated very seriously. And my question is this: when we were talking about like pot earlier, and when we were growing up, how if you had pot, it was like you might as well be on a heroin because that's what it is that they said. And of course we as a society have changed. Do you ever see a time, especially when you're looking at punishments like this, that prostitution will be legal outside of places like Nevada? But I'm not talking about women being trafficked. I'm not talking about women doing things against their will or men doing things against their will. What I'm talking about is, do you ever see a time that American society will say it's between consenting adults? If they want to pay, they can pay.
In the near future, yeah,
Do you?
absolutely, absolutely.
Where would that be in Project 2025, you think?
But it might be a state thing because because of trafficking and whatnot, I think it's the younger generation that will make this policy, and yeah, I think people will look at this and go between OnlyFans and we're already there, we're already there. The
Well,
amount of pardon me, yes, go on.
I was saying Project 2025 is one of their agendas is to ban pornography. So I don't see
That's
how
right.
they would allow prostitution, um, because for them it's all about living in the shadows and shame, right? Being the hypocrite. I don't know.
I don't I didn't know 2025's policy on that, but I just and I'm probably in the most liberal bubble in the world in Southern California. But yeah, sex seems to me, it's like, pot, every even Trump, moved it over a little bit and declassified it.
And let's make sure we're clear.
baby steps.
Let's make sure that you're not misunderstood. And we're not talking about sex trafficking. We're not talking about
No,
But
minors.
absolutely
We're
no.
not
it may
talking
be
about.
hard to separate those two things.
Well,
Yeah,
It real
maybe that's
in
maybe that's the
practicality.
issue.
maybe
Maybe
that
that's the
is,
issue.
yeah, maybe I haven't thought that through, but yeah, that could be it. I'm very anti-sex trafficking, of course, like who isn't, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, in this administration,
Are you
well, I
nuts?
know, I
They
know. I
they
mean,
shut they shut
that's
down the
In the
House of
White House.
Representatives. What do you mean?
that's what's in the Epstein files. I am sure of it, and I'm
Mhm.
sure that I mean, I remember reading about the Trump modeling agency and all that
Mhm.
shit that he was doing, and I mean, that is there any better way to traffic girls through? You want to be a model kid? Meet Mr. Trump. Oh, he's very important in the United States.
Well, I read somewhere that something that's in the files is that they were sending girls from Mar-a-Lago over to Epstein, and
Yeah.
that constitutes sex
Yeah,
trafficking
yeah. I don't
under
think
the
he
law.
likes young girls, or maybe he does. I don't know. But trafficking. I would say, oh yeah, there's a guy who was into sex trafficking, absolutely. And the
Mhm.
same business that Epstein was in, which is blackmail, trafficking and blackmail.
Let me throw this
is
in
this is
too.
this can I is this a
Go
George
ahead.
Carlin line? Why is it illegal to sell something that it's perfectly legal to give away for free? I think it's Carlin.
It sounds like
Yeah,
Carlin.
it sounds like Carlin.
Sounds like Carlin. I'll throw this in too. I saw this today. It's been 8 years since Matt Lauer was outed and made a pariah as far as television is concerned, and financially he's fine. But he says that he's still hurt by the way he was treated by people he thought were friends and colleagues and so on and so forth. But he is looking to get back into television. He is looking to resurrect his career and to go back on TV. And so my question is this: okay, we've seen Louis C.K. is back. He's not back on television, but he's selling out Madison Square Garden. Kevin Spacey is getting movie parts again. You have not seen them yet, but he has been hired and is right now on location somewhere shooting. Mel Gibson is all the way back. Apparently, this just cracks me up. He's making, and I'm not making this up, The Passion of the Christ 2. This
The
time it's
sequel.
personal. The Passion of the Christ
Well, they did
2.
you they did use "I'll Be Back."
So do you think that that he's just being delusional? Or do you think that America will? Because the shit that Lauer did, I mean, having a button under his desk to close the office door so he could trap women
Well, wait
in
a
his
minute,
office and sexually
wait a
assault them.
minute, wait a
Go
minute.
ahead.
I've been in a lot of offices where guys have that and have that. No, the Golden Girls producers had that. I'm not kidding you. Why? I don't
But
know.
you don't, not to trap women
No,
Not to
necessarily.
trap women, no, but to have a button on your door that closes your door. Excuse me, I want to, so you don't have to cross over and shut the door. I want to have a private conversation. I don't think it that.
Okay, how lazy is that? Let's start with that premise. How
Yeah.
lazy is that?
Yeah, he's
That you
lazy.
can't just go, can
So
you
yeah,
close the door on your way in? That
he's
there's a button.
he's lazy. But okay, did the door lock? That's the question. Did it
Probably.
lock the door on the inside? I don't know. He was a creep. He's a total creep. He's never coming back. But he was mostly a creep because you know he was on TV playing a sweet, nice guy. And in reality, he wasn't that. He wasn't a really nice guy. He's a creep. He was, he sexually assaulted these women. He used his power, over them.
He
You know,
claims it was consensual to the
yeah,
standpoint.
of course,
Everyone
if
was
we're going to
consensual.
complain, and you know what? I do believe in a lot of these guys' heads, it is consensual. They
Hmm.
are interpreting it as consensual.
Hmm.
Because they're narcissists. Who would turn down,
Hmm.
the opportunity to service the great Matt Lauer?
Hmm.
And I think Trump is the same way. I think a lot of these guys is like, well, no, no, she wanted it. Oh, yeah, she said no, but you
You know
know.
what? Let me throw this in while I'm thinking about it. With all
And
the
I'm
30,
and by the
with
way,
the,
they're not they're incorrect.
of course they.
I have to underline this. I'm not saying but in his head, fame does shit to people. Fame changes your fucking brain chemistry. Because if I walk down the street and everyone was like, "Love you, love you, love you," oh, can I get a picture with you, Jim? Oh, you know, I think it has to change you.
Oh, it
You
does
know,
that, but well, it does. It doesn't. Most people, or a lot of. We have all come up with people who were one person, and then when they break, all of a sudden,
well,
it's when you start
you
breathing.
with your goddamn, awards and your Hall of Fame stuff, you've turned into a real jerk,
Have
Brian.
I? I'm
Just
sorry.
in the last three
It's all the
weeks.
Bay Area rarefied air that I'm breathing. So after the 30-year debate, which I'm sorry that people are going to hate me for saying this, I believe what Woody Allen has to say. I always have because of the fact there have been two in-depth investigations by law enforcement who wanted to prosecute him. The story makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, the general public, or most of the public, still believes a lot of misinformation, like the
But
narrative.
also I think with
Wait, wait,
Woody,
wait, 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 one second. However, it doesn't do him any good, no good at all, for him to be saying that he and his wife Sun Yi spent many wonderful evenings having dinners with Jeffrey Epstein.
oh yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
I
Um,
mean, what's wrong with you?
well,
Why would you say that? I mean,
yeah.
even if you did do it, and he's there with his wife,
That.
and his wife, they would. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Woody Allen said that?
Yes.
Well, I mean, people are still acting in his films. His films are still getting distribution,
Who?
like all
Who?
those things. What?
Who? Nobody's acting in his films.
No, 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 that's not true.
Listen,
Who?
He
his
doesn't
last
have
film. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna Google who
he
was in
Go
his
doesn't
ahead. Go
last.
have
ahead.
the
And look.
clout, and he's getting older, but he's made like something like 75 films, a
Yeah.
ridiculous amount of
Yeah.
films, and 25, 30 of them after Mia and the kid
Mhm.
made those accusations. I
But it
think
was when they came
I
back,
I
Jim.
I,
It was
I
when the accusations came back. That's when you had all
yeah,
these
yeah,
people who'd won
yeah.
Oscars apologizing for having worked with him. He's working in Europe right now, is what the
Yeah,
deal is. There are
yeah.
people in Europe.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
but
I'm
what I
looking.
think,
His most recent one is Coup de Chance, which is a French film from 2023, and these are all European actors,
yeah,
and
I
you
think
know,
he's kind of,
comedy,
I think
race, thank
but he's
pedophile.
still, but he's still rushing to get, distribution, and it's all European money, and because,
Mhm.
the, I think, when those accusations came down, it definitely hurt him. That HBO show definitely hurt him.
Mhm.
But I think it's just like the fact that what he did with Sun Yi, and what he
Yeah, to
did.
see that was wrong. I
I
mean,
think that everybody knows he did that. You know, the
that
heart
crosses a
wants what the
line.
heart wants, and I think a normal human being would say, I don't care how much you are attracted to
Your
your
girlfriend's
girlfriend's,
daughter.
adopted
There's no
daughter.
excuse for that.
There's no excuse for
No
that.
excuse for that.
But
And I think that that's why people just like, they look at his movies. It's like, you know what? And then they go back and they look at Manhattan, and he's a 41-year-old comedy writer, shacking up with a 17-year-old, and it's okay because their parents are like, he's great.
And there come some other jokes in other movies too. But
Yeah.
one thing that really, there's that separating the person and the art. And I'm sorry, when I see lists of the greatest romantic comedies and Annie Hall not only isn't at the top, but isn't even on the list.
Yeah.
And When Harry Met Sally is, which that movie couldn't exist without Annie Hall. That really,
Same movie, yeah.
that tweaks me.
Yeah.
But the big thing to me
Harry
now
Met Sally
is
is a
when
masterpiece.
Bill Maher had this golden opportunity to talk to him for hours, he barely let Woody talk. Jim,
I'll tell him.
yeah, it was like, you'll see it in the comments of the videos too. It was like, let the guy talk. I want to hear what he has to say.
Because he never
Yeah.
gives interviews.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
people, this ruins it for me. Like, I can't listen to R. Kelly. I cannot listen to anything from Bad Boy Productions. Like, I can't listen to that music anymore because
Well,
of what
what
Diddy
about
and R. Kelly have done. I can't watch certain shows when I know that person was preying on, because as a woman whose men have preyed on me and tried
Sure.
to sexually assault me, I can't support that. I
Okay,
can't.
but what you're saying then is that you can't support somebody who's accused, is what you're saying. R. Kelly did it and was convicted of it. Woody Allen, they were never able to charge anything. And as I said,
Yeah,
But
he's
there's the Soon-Yi part.
stepdaughter.
again, the Sun-Yi part is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
That's
the-
the evidence. That's all the evidence I need.
okay. The Sun-Yi.
all the
All right,
evidence
all right, let me
really
ask
have
you.
to make a fun movie for to overlook that. But I do it about separating the artist from the crime. We're in a business where people go to movies and like entertainers for all sorts of reasons, and for whatever reason, if that person does anything that they don't like, it is, I don't like him anymore. Gee, I used to like Johnny Carson, but then I found out he was a alcoholic who was rude to his mother. I didn't like that about him. And no, you don't. No performer is owed their fans.
No, they're not.
And that's why they used to have publicists who would keep shit out of the news.
No, you're confusing publicists with fixers. The fixers
Yeah,
were the ones.
yeah.
Hey,
Well, publicists used to be fixers.
Amongst all these stories, it seemed to me for quite a long time now that the person that gets the biggest pass is Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
People that have strong feelings about every other artist, they're like, they don't want to give up their Michael Jackson music.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are like that. I mean, a lot of people in the Black community are like that about R. Kelly too.
My grandmother used to stand in church singing "I Believe I Can Fly."
Yeah.
So I mean, they were invested, but you're right about the Michael
I,
Jackson
I,
pass.
and I also think that
But we don't know that he did. Well-
that music is a little different than looking at Woody Allen. You know what I mean? They're an actor. Because you're just
Seeing him on
listening to it.
screen.
You're just like listening to that song, and it's like, look, that song. I can take all the memories I have of that song, because that's what a lot of music is. It's like, oh, it just triggers out
it's
all
a
these
time machine.
memories. It's a time, exactly. It's a time
It's a
machine.
time machine.
And
Mhm.
and that's what I don't want to give up. I mean, that's what I think. But
But I'll tell you, I have one that it broke my heart to give up. I have been a Sylvester Stallone fan ever since I learned the Rocky story of how he fought and struggled
Yeah.
and fought the studio to make this movie that he wrote, and how he wouldn't back down, and they threw everything in his way. They're even making a movie right now that's in
Yeah.
production called I Play Rocky, about how he got that made. And it was such a story of determination and what Rocky was about, the indomitable spirit of man. He has been one of my personal heroes. And in fact, I mean, of course, he made a lot of shitty movies, but what I'm talking about is the ones that are good. And he was equal opportunity in terms of the people he cast in his pictures. Lots of African Americans, and then for him to stand up a couple of months ago and introduce Trump as the next George Washington broke my heart.
It's
Yeah,
heartbreaking. It's
yeah,
absolutely heartbreaking. Hey,
and that's going
I
to be
was a
very hard
John
for me to
Wayne
watch.
fan until I read the 1972 Playboy interview.
Oh yeah,
Oh
oh
yeah.
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And so, yeah,
you
I
know,
feel the same way about Kid Rock.
I've never been a Nolan fan. But I mean, for me, it's like I am at a point where these celebrities who have enabled the current fascist regime, I don't have any space for them. So Kim Kardashian,
What?
I've never been a Kardashian fan.
Are you done with Kevin Sorbo too?
Yeah, I've been done with Kevin Sorbo.
And Dean Cain too?
I
Really?
was- oh yeah, it was hard,
And
but
James Woods? Really?
And who,
I
I'm sorry, who was recently on with Charlie Kirk's very, very sad widow? Um,
I can't with them though. I mean,
yeah.
listen, you are using your platform to tell people it's okay for this, and it goes back to the sexual exploitation. It is okay for these people who have sexually exploited children, who have sexually exploited women. This is okay because I'm making billions of dollars. I'm going to be friends with this ketamine infused fucking weirdo because it's good for me and you're my fan, so you should support that.
I
And
will
it's
say
not
that,
okay. And there's
I will
lots of
say
young
this.
women who are obsessed with the Kardashians and want whatever they have. They're like, oh my God, I got chapstick. They're like, oh my God, I gotta buy that $70
Okay,
chapstick.
but here's the thing. I'm
Okay.
not a Kardashian fan. I've never seen an episode of anything that they've ever done ever.
Mm.
However, I will give Kim Kardashian a pass, a little bit of a pass, because she has gotten some people out of jail who perhaps should not have been in jail. She got
Because
Trump,
someone went and told her about it and she was like, oh, this, someone convinced her. It wasn't
but she still did it,
Yeah.
regardless
she did
of
it. She
how
went
she
to
did it. She still did
whatever,
it.
but and that one hand that she did to help those people, she turned around and advanced an agenda that hurts thousands. Do you see what I mean?
No, no,
I mean,
millions,
it's a little bit
millions,
like
not
on
thousands.
January 6th, Trump one time said, be peaceful.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
hey, yeah.
that's a big pass on Kim Kardashian. Um, Kind of a joke.
Anybody,
Hey,
has anybody lost you, Jim? Is there anybody who's lost you?
Yeah,
You're
of
a lot nicer
course.
than me, Jim.
Who?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Catherine Heigl lost me a long time ago. I was disappointed.
Was it stuff?
I
Pardon?
kind of, I mean, but there are people who I just go, um, I have all sorts of reasons for I just kind of go, well, boy, is that how you want to be? You know, but I was like, I was like a John Voight fan, and then when I found out he was,
Mm.
super
Mm.
right wing, I was like, I mean, just, it was like, I just think, Midnight Cowboy is probably the best movie ever made, in my opinion. And he was a
James
great
Woods,
actor
too.
coming home. James Wood, really good, good actors, and I can still look at those early pieces and I go, okay, because the John Voight that I hate is the old John Voight, but
Mhm.
young John Voight, oh, he was a good guy,
Well,
and
all I know with John Boyd is that since he's opened his mouth the last couple of years, it's like, oh, that's why Angelina will have nothing to do with him.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, and it's, but I don't become like giant fans. I probably am more like into the work. If
Hmm.
I like if I like a piece of work, uh, it doesn't matter. I mean, Chaplin, not a great guy.
Well, that's
Sexual,
not true. Well,
sexual,
Chaplin
sexual
had a
assault
lot
there.
of
He married like
had a lot of young
13-year-old
wives.
girls. Yeah, a lot of young wives.
He had a lot. But the
By
last one
by
lasted 30 years. The last one lasted 30 years.
one of my favorite performers, and you won't remember, was a guy named Anthony Newley.
Of
You
course, I
know,
remember Anthony Newley. He
and
was
he
married to Joan Collins. Did you know
Joan
that?
Collins. Yes, I did know that. I know everything you need to know about Anthony Newley. But and he wrote some great songs, and one of the songs that he wrote was "Feeling Good." that was
Feeling, how
not
does that go? Feeling good.
da 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 da. You know how I feel. Da 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 da
Nina
da da
Simone.
da da. Da. Yeah, Nina Simone.
Yeah.
That was a song that from a
Hmm.
Broadway show that he wrote called "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off,"
Mm.
and or that or the smell of the grease paint. Uh, but um, but it was a song that no one paid any attention to. It was like that's a nice little number that he wrote, and Nina Simone did it, and it's
Yeah.
has made more money for him, and he was broke. He just had an interesting life. He liked from that generation 15, 16, 17-year-old girls. That was his thing. And as soon as I found that out about him, it was like, oh, geez, I wish I didn't know that about him. But
That's a comment. You're 16. You're beautiful.
yeah,
You're mine. Why
well,
is it so many 16-year-olds?
I don't know. My American
Christine,
grandmother, my
16?
because
American
I
grandmother
think that
married my grandfather at 6. She was 16 when she got married to my grandfather, and he was
yeah.
4 years older than
My
her.
father, my mother was like 17 and my father was like 22, and I would say, "Oh, you'd be on To Catch a Predator now." You know?
My, my, my
Hey.
Ethiopian grandmother was married the first time at 13, but that was a different
Oh,
time.
wow.
Wow. Is
Yeah.
it still, there was the place that was youngest that allowed the youngest with parental consent was Kansas. I don't know if it still is, but Kansas would allow a girl to get married at 12.
Oh, they're trying to do that here in Tennessee. They're trying to pass a child bride law.
Yeah.
That would
Why?
allow what?
What
That would allow
motivates
what?
that?
I don't know what's going on here in Tennessee, but
And how's that fit in with the Christian thing?
it definitely fits in with the
Oh,
Christian.
yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, it totally fits in with it.
But it
It's
shouldn't.
the Old
Yeah.
Hey,
Testament.
on
And
the
that goes
subject,
to the forgiveness too, of like people forgiving people for these bad sexual acts. It's like the evangelical
Yeah.
culture that those youth pastors are committing all these offenses against children, and then they go in front of their parish and they say, "I sinned,
It was the
God
devil.
forgive
It
me," and they
was
go,
all
the
"Well,
it
right.
was the
if he
devil that
confesses
did
in front of
it. Come
God,
on.
then we have to forgive him too." And it's this weird culture that facilitates all of this, like even on the national level. That's why they're like, "Oh yeah, maybe Trump did do that, but he's with Jesus. He's
Yeah.
he's speaking for us on
Yeah.
behalf."
He's a great running mate, that Jesus. You
on,
know?
on that subject of platforming people like this,
Yeah.
like Joe Rogan has platformed a lot of people and like anti-science and just garbage conspiracy theory stuff. Just Terrence Howard spouting this weird, like, I don't know if you know about that, but it's too much
I
to get
don't.
into. It's just, but it's nonsense. And but the thing is, he platforms all that stuff very uncritically. He doesn't push back on anything. He's just like, wow. And no. So, but
Just
I'm
asking
not
questions.
necessarily automatically against, like you were kind of getting at this, Brian. I'm not necessarily automatically against platforming someone distasteful if it's like you're not platforming, but if you're going to give them a hard interview,
Right.
like I don't like sometimes there's this, why are you having them on your show? I'm not knee jerk automatically like that if it's a serious interview and you're calling them on their shit, which is rare, I guess. But
No, it's journalism, is what it's called.
yeah, rare.
It's called journalism. I don't know. We're hearing. I'm getting. You ever do this? Like have like Waze or something on, and all of a sudden it starts speaking like a
Well,
German
I heard the
or a
word
Japanese.
spaghetti,
I have
so
spaghetti too. That makes
yeah.
I'm hungry for
Now I
pasta.
want spaghetti.
Yeah,
Now I'm
now I want spaghetti
hungry.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
we've gone way over time because we're so damned interesting, are we? And I've only got 9% left before my battery's dead. And I'm not plugged in. So, is there anything anybody wants to plug, mention? Where are you going to be in Paris, Yanni, in case I want to come and visit?
I'm going
Thanks
to
Crash.
be at
Do
let's
we want
see.
to tell people where you're going to be? Have something to
I'm
see?
going to be shopping. I'm going to be sipping Sancerre. I'll probably be at I'm not going to be Galerie Lafayette. I actually prefer the Bon Marché. I'll probably just be when I go to Paris, I literally walk out of my hotel, right or left, and just see what happens.
yeah, yeah,
See how
yeah.
I feel.
If you
Uh,
get to 112 Rue des Clombes, that's George Clooney's place. just
Okay, I will.
buzz
I'm
in
gonna
and tell
hang
him
out
I
with
said,
George and what's his wife's name? And what's his wife's name?
Mrs. Clooney.
Mrs. Uh, I will just be. I will just be enjoying. I went to a French school growing up. I speak French fluently. I'm very comfortable in Paris. It's my happy
Oh,
place.
move to
Nice.
Paris.
So,
Why are you in the middle of Tennessee? You want your 12-year-old granddaughter to get married? What's the matter? Go to
oh,
France.
it's a good thing I don't have children, right? I got a Chihuahua.
See,
I'll
Now
be
wait a
relocating
minute.
you're a
off.
dog
If
mom.
you want
Yeah,
to
I am a
if you have
dog
a
and cat mom.
Chihuahua, you
This is
got to
my
move
fur
to
baby.
Louisiana because it's illegal to marry a Chihuahua there. A lot of people don't know that.
With parental consent. With the Chihuahua's parental consent.
I
Yeah.
feel a kinship here in Mexico with your Chihuahua.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I'll be check me
have
out
a
on
safe
Substack.
trip.
Check me out on Copeland's Corner. Check me out. I'm
Yes.
just flew. I got material. It's coming up.
And
You're
great
flying.
commentary, which is always fun and always insightful.
I'd love to see your stand up. How do I is it on YouTube too?
It is on my YouTube channel. It's very old. I haven't done stand up in a long time. I think my last thing I uploaded
How
was
about Jimmy Carter? Am I right?
I just got a low battery. Your Mac is gonna sleep soon. So
Yeah.
real quick, Brian, anything you want to mention?
I'm gonna do another shoot for this Dan Aykroyd show, The Unbelievable, on History Channel. And if you're in Austin, Texas, on February 18th, I'm doing a kind of talk show on stage for the Texas Science Festival.
Awesome. Okay, Jim, anything you want to mention?
I have a big.
Again, what show is your daughter casting for me to send my
Ghost.
headshot into?
Ghosts on
Ghosts.
CBS. It's,
Ghosts, okay.
And it's good for
Okay.
you because they shoot in Canada, so
Okay, well, great.
That's an easy ride for you. Yeah.
So I can send you my headshot.
Yeah.
Now you'll hook me up.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I will. And I haven't gotten my check from last week's show that I did.
It's in the mail.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's in the mail.
This was
And
great.
Brian
What a fun group.
Battle, Jim Ballard, thank you guys. I appreciate you doing the show as always.
Thank
Great to be here.
Thank you.
Real soon. We got to get out of here quickly. If you like what it is that you saw, make sure you hit like, you hit subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version of this, give us a 5-star review. It helps people find the show. We'll check you out next week with a different panel. Until then, be kind to your neighbor. He knows where you live.